Good morning and welcome back to my kitchen. My name is Kat, and if you're new here, we are baking our way through Some of My Best Friends Are Cookies by Emelia Jackson. Today's recipe is an Aussie classic. It is the ANZAC biscuit. I have an ANZAC biscuit recipe that I've been making for a number of years, so I thought I would make both my recipe and Emelia's recipe and compare them and see what we think. My family does prefer our ANZAC biscuits on the crispier side. There is instructions for both soft and crispy. So let's just get started. I'm going to start with my recipe, but the two are very similar. So the first thing that we need is half a cup or 125 grams of butter, and 2 tablespoons or about 50 grams of golden syrup. And we're just going to melt these together while we get our dry ingredients together. So for our dry ingredients, we need 2 cups of oats, which is about 170 grams, 1 cup or 120 grams of plain flour, half a cup or 100 grams of sugar, and I'm just going to give these a quick mix together. Now in this little bowl, we're going to put a tablespoon of boiling water, and a teaspoon of bicarb. Give it a little mix together. So we've got our melted butter and golden syrup, and we're just going to add in our bicarb water mixture, and it should fizz up. So while that is nice and fizzy, we pour it straight into our oat mixture. And give it a quick mix. And then we just get scoops of this dough and pop them on a tray. And I'm just squishing these together and flattening them ever so slightly to make them all about the same thickness. And these will go in the oven at 160 degrees for about 20 minutes. So while I was editing, I realised that I forgot to add the brown sugar to Emelia's recipe. So I recorded myself making a new batch of the ANZAC biscuits, just so that you can see what they are supposed to look like. So for Emelia's recipe, we need 150 grams of butter, and we need 100 grams of golden syrup, and we also need 150 grams of brown sugar. And we melt all of those ingredients together on the stove. So while that's melting, we're going to get our dry ingredients together. So we need 160 grams of plain flour, and I haven't bothered to wash out this bowl because the ingredients are all the same, with one small change, which is that Emelia's recipe calls for 80 grams of desiccated coconut. I believe that the coconut was added to the recipe at a later date. I don't think it was in the original recipe. Perfect. That's exactly 80 grams. Now we need 110 grams of the rolled oats. And half a teaspoon of salt. So our butter and our golden syrup is melted together. And for Emelia's recipe, we just add our bicarb, which is half a teaspoon, straight into the mixture. Give that a stir. And pour it in. Mix it up. And we're going to scoop these onto the tray and bake them at 160 degrees for about 20 minutes. Now, Emelia does say that she puts hers into about 50-gram dough balls, and her husband said that it was a whole meal. So I am going to just use the same size cookie scoop as I use for my recipe. Which makes about 30-gram biscuits. And again, I'm just going to squish them together and pop them in the oven. These are the first recipe coming out of the oven. So this is what they look like at the chewy cook time. I'm going to pop them back in for the crunchy cook time. So those biscuits all need to cool on the tray, and I will be back to taste them with you once they're cold. Here I am talking about how surprised I am that Emelia's biscuits did not flatten out like a traditional ANZAC biscuit. I comment how they're quite puffed up, and that is obviously because I forgot to put the sugar in them. Then, as I do the taste test, I comment how mine obviously taste like normal ANZAC biscuits, whereas Emelia's taste more like an oatmeal raisin biscuit without, obviously, the raisins. I also comment that I feel like it could be a bit sweeter, which in hindsight should have been a red flag for me. However, mistakes happen and I corrected it, so no harm, no foul. When I tasted Emelia's recipe made correctly, it was much sweeter than a traditional ANZAC biscuit, but it was quite nice. It was chewy. Even the ones that were baked for the crunchy cook time were still quite chewy, and honestly, both biscuits are quite delicious. In the time since I recorded this, all of the traditional ANZAC biscuits have been eaten, and about half of the incorrectly made Emelia's biscuits have also gone, as well as about half of the correctly made Emelia's biscuits. So, all in all, even with my stuff up, still quite edible. And in fact, my mum likes the ones without sugar, being a bit more diabetic friendly. Thanks for being here today as we made some ANZAC biscuits. If you would like, I will pop another video here that you can enjoy between now and my next upload. Thanks for watching. I can't wait to see you next time. Bye.